In 1854, the remote Indian village of Shirdi received an unexpected visitor. A 16-year-old boy arrived, sat down under a tree, and slipped into a state of deep, motionless meditation. For days, he sat under the massive canopy of this specific neem tree. He lived in a trance-like state, enduring extreme heat and cold, completely oblivious to the villagers gathering to stare at him. They tried to ask him who he was, but he offered no answers. He had no known name. He claimed no religion. He had no documented parents, and historians can only estimate he was born around 1838. In 19th century India, this anonymity was a profound anomaly. Society was strictly compartmentalized. Religious sects and castes were usually identifiable by specific clothing, facial markings, and grooming habits. This young ascetic wore none of them. By belonging to no specific group, he avoided the immediate religious friction of the era. In a society where identity dictated every social interaction, his lack of it allowed him to move between communities that rarely touched. After 3 years in Shirdi, the young ascetic vanished as quietly as he had arrived, but around 1858 he came back. He returned traveling alongside the marriage procession of Chand Patil, a man he had helped in the wilderness when he was lost. When the procession reached the outskirts of Shirdi, they stopped near the local Khandoba temple. The temple's priest, Mahalsapati, saw the ascetic stepping down from the cart and called out, "Ya Sai, come Sai." In the local languages, Sai refers to a religious mendicant, and Baba is an honorific for a father. That spontaneous greeting became his permanent identifier. He would never leave Shirdi again. This greeting gave the community a way to relate to the traveler, turning him from a nameless traveler into a spiritual father figure for the village. Sai Baba lived the rest of his life as a penniless fakir, a Sufi mendicant. He owned nothing but a tin pot, a walking stick, and a simple robe. For his permanent home, he selected an old, dilapidated village mosque. He took this Islamic mosque and gave it the name of a Hindu deity's capital, Dwarkamai. This act presented a constant, visible paradox to everyone who entered. His daily routine reinforced this lifestyle. He begged for alms around the village, mixing the collected food in a single pot. He then shared the meal among visiting devotees, the village poor, and the local animals. Inside Dwarkamai, he maintained the duni, a perpetual sacred fire. The ash produced by this fire was called udi. Baba distributed this ash to his followers, and they revered it as a blessing and a medicine. Within the mosque, the strict social hierarchies of the village became difficult to maintain. People from different faiths were forced to share the same small space, normalizing a proximity that was forbidden in most other parts of society. His teachings were direct. His core mantra was Sabka Malik Ek, God is one, or Allah Malik, God is the sole master. When seekers came for guidance, he tailored his advice to their backgrounds. He instructed Muslim visitors to study the Quran, while advising Hindus to read the Bhagavad Gita and Ramayana. Looking at this diagram, we can map his theology onto 2 foundational pillars. The first pillar is Shraddha, unwavering faith in the divine. And as we see the second pillar lock into place, we have Saburi, patience and perseverance in the face of adversity. By stripping away complex religious dogma and focusing on just faith and patience, Sai Baba made spiritual guidance accessible to everyone, from the illiterate to the impoverished. His followers recorded many miracles, known as Leelas. Once, when local shopkeepers refused him oil for his lamps, Baba returned to the mosque, filled the lamps with water, and the flames burned all night. When a cholera epidemic struck Shirdi, he ground wheat into flour and had it scattered along the village boundaries. The outbreak ended immediately after. On another occasion, a child accidentally fell into a furnace. Sitting at a distance, Baba suddenly plunged his own arms into his roaring duni fire. He pulled the child to safety, absorbing the burns himself. He was even said to transcend physical space, curing a man's tuberculosis without physical medicine by appearing in the man's dreams to perform the healing. These acts shifted the community's focus from who Baba was to what he did. By solving immediate suffering, he built a foundation of trust that allowed his followers to embrace his message of unity. By August 1918, Baba began telling his close devotees he would soon leave his mortal body. On October 15th, the festival of Vijayadashami, he prepared to depart. Before his death, he reached into his pocket and handed exactly 9 rupees to his devoted follower, Lakshmibai Shinde. Those 9 rupees represent Navada Bhakti, the 9 traditional forms of devotion. He passed away quietly and was entombed at the Bhutiwada in Shirdi. His followers believed that this transition ended his physical presence but allowed his influence to become boundless. Before his death, Sai Baba gave humanity his 11 assurances, a spoken contract outlining how he would continue to interact with his devotees. He promised that the moment a devotee climbed the steps of his tomb, the Samadhi Mandir, their sorrows would end. He also assured his followers that he would remain active and alive to help them, even after leaving his earthly body. Today, millions of people visit Shirdi to seek his blessing. An anonymous traveler who sat under a neem tree created a legacy of compassion that continues to unify people over a century later.